I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Editor Eddie Hamilton. Eddie, there's been so much expectation and pressure heaped on this film because of the gospel-like reverence for the original. Critics love it, fans love it, biggest hit of the year. So, and by the way, most people saying it's better than the first, which is, unbelievable. So
Amazing.
how proud are you
Yeah.
of the way that the film's exceeded even the highest of expectations?
Oh my word. I can't tell you the relief, the elation and relief when we first screened the film for an audience. That was at CinemaCon in Las Vegas in early May 2022. I was in South Africa and with Tom Cruise and Chris Quarry, and it was the evening. It was evening for our time. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning in Las Vegas when everybody started coming out and sending and just, broadcasting their thoughts on Twitter and on YouTube, and the room was so excited and so happy and so genuinely positive. And it was the hardest film I've ever done by many orders of magnitude. So much footage and so much expectation, and we wanted it to be awesome. We never dreamed that anyone would ever say it was better than the first one. I will say that was such an incredible surprise when people saying that, because it's such a cultural landmark of like 1980s cinema for generations of people who love it. It's their favorite film, so many people. And I have to be honest, I actually got very emotional because I was a huge fan of cinema and movies. I've been since I was a young child. I've had spiritual experiences in cinemas, watching great films that I've loved. And as a filmmaker or a storyteller, you dream of working on a film that entertains and reaches a wide audience and has the potential to be a classic film. And I'm so grateful and I'm so excited. And what's amazing now is on YouTube there are people who record themselves watching the film and give you live reactions.
Oh, man.
And it's incredibly exciting, because I'll watch those when I'm editing footage from Mission Impossible, when I have because a lot of the stunt footage has no sound. So I'm just watching footage, and I'll sometimes have some of the reaction videos playing. And it's very, I have to say, it's very rewarding, because when you see what you've worked on for 2 years, having the right emotional effect on so many audiences around the world, it's just so it's fabulous.
Yeah.
And it's what we all want as filmmakers, and it's what Tom Cruise wanted, it's what Joe Kosinski wanted, Jerry Bruckheimer, of course, the living legend, Chris McQuarrie, who's such a great storyteller, writer on Top Gun. And so it's phenomenal. I can't believe it, and I'm so thrilled. I'm thrilled for people who get to go back to the cinema and have a night out at the movies again after 2 years of craziness, and remind people of the joy of that, and going on an adventure with characters that you love and just getting lost in the world of a film. Like, there's nothing better than that. When you sit down in a theater and the lights dim and you just get lost in a world of adventure and excitement. It's just so cool. I love it. It's the best. The best.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like it. And in fact, I think it's the film that we needed. I was saying to Joe, Joseph, the director, obviously, my parents in their 70s haven't been to a cinema in a very long time. They went out post-pandemic.
Oh, I love it.
Of it. And I've heard that across the board. I haven't had that kind of experience in the cinema. I've seen so many wonderful films, of course, but this is the one that ticked all the boxes. And so word of mouth has really propelled this film to the greatest of heights. And I think you all should be so super proud.
I'm super excited. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I love this quote from Chris McQuarrie about Fallout. your work on Fallout, and I just wanted to see how how consistent that is going forward for Top Gun. He said every creator needs a built-in shockproof shit detector, and Eddie is ours because you're emotionally objective. You give it to them straight, and if it works for you, it works, and if it doesn't, then you're able to articulate why. Now, was that also the case for Joseph Kosinski and this film?
I mean, I hope so. I think when Tom Cruise is the reason that I was invited to talk with Joe Kosinski and Jerry Bruckheimer about Top Gun Maverick, and for them to consider me. Now, this kind of film is a gift for an editor, because so much of the film is created completely editorially in terms of the aerial sequences, especially. But then again, it is also this film, the quantity of footage was so extraordinary that I was quite literally overwhelmed at times. And I found it like there were days where I was waking up at 4 a.m. just with images of Hangman and Phoenix and Coyote and Rooster in my head, because I had so much footage to go through, and I was so worried, would I ever get through it all, and is it going to make sense, and is it going to work, and all that stuff. But the thing is, everyone who my heart is in the right place. I just want the best film for the audience. I am a fan of these movies, and I understand what it's like to sit in a cinema and be disappointed by a film that you've been really looking forward to seeing, and it's so disappointing. And listen, films don't work for a lot of reasons, but when I'm Tom Cruise especially, he cares so much about how the audience reacts to the film and giving them just a great movie going experience. Wait till you see the next 2 Mission Impossible movies. They're just, again, on another level. Everything that we learned about intense, emotional, focused storytelling from Top Gun, Chris McQuarrie is rolling into these next 2 Mission Impossible movies. And the thing about Top Gun Maverick was Tom kept saying to us, we have to feel the film. You don't want the audience to watch the film. You want them to feel it. And that just means getting completely lost in the world of the movie and going on a seamless emotional journey, subjectively from Maverick's point of view through the whole film. If something doesn't work, I'm quite happy to put my hand up and say, this isn't working, or suggest ways, things that we need. Like I remember in the bar scene, that was very, very challenging in Top Gun, because everything has to be again, subjectively from Maverick's point of view. You have to see that he's observing the pilots, and that he's, reacting to Rooster walking in, and seeing how Rooster reacts with Hangman and Phoenix. And there were some shots in that sequence that weren't strong enough, or that weren't landing enough for the audience. And so I was quite happy to say to Joe, look, I think we might need something here, we might need something here. And Joe would always go and film it the next day immediately. It was the same all the way through, but it mainly comes from, I think the reason I get on with Tom so well is because I care as much about the end result as he does. And I care about the audience's reaction, and I care about just making a great movie that people can get out into the cinema and just get lost in, and just, it's what I love to do. And so that kind of enthusiasm for the end result, and it kind of fuels my passion for the film over the 2 years it takes to make. And I think people love collaborating with enthusiastic people. It means that it's fun to go to work and have somebody who loves to be there and wants to come up with ideas and, work on stuff. And, I don't take any shortcuts when I'm working. I go through every frame of footage. I break it all down. When I'm building the sequences, I always stack up multiple options for pieces of action. So Tom, or whoever, Joe and Jerry Bruckheimer, they could all
Yeah.
come in and like ask me, and we could break the scenes down and play with them and work with them. But, you know, I just want it to be as good as you do watching it, you know. That's it. That's all it is.
That's all it is. I mean, fundamentally, that's what it is at the end of the day. I'm curious about your work with Tom Cruise. He is the biggest movie star in the world. Many of us, despite all the stuff that goes on, you know, that in the media and whatever, he is a true artist. Like, you know, Edge of Tomorrow, Oblivion, Kaczynski's Oblivion,
Yes.
Rogue Nation, I thought was incredible. And then Fallout comes out, and I was just like, oh my God, it's even better. Of all the big movie stars, and you know, I think now you're part of the TCU, the Tom Cruise Cinematic Universe. What does he bring to the table on a project that you most value that is so unique to him?
To be honest, it is a work ethic which is second to none. And when he turns up on set, he expects the best from everybody because he expects the best of himself. You know, he has more discipline than almost any other human. You know, he works out every day. He eats well. He only drinks water. He never eats sugar. He's in phenomenal physical condition. You know, he takes his job very, very seriously. But on top of that, he has impeccable manners, and he's just incredibly polite to everybody, very grateful, knows everyone's names, says thank you to everybody, you know, at the end of each day.
Wow.
Takes time to talk to the crew and understand what they're going through and help the crew. He's very generous with, you know, his world famous coconut cake, which he sends out to all his past collaborators every Christmas. To be honest, though, the most important thing is the work ethic and setting the standards at a world-class level for every department. And that, you know, in post-production, that includes the sound department, the sound mixing, the music. And, you know, he said to us, this film has to be sonically perfect from beginning to end. When we were mixing the sound right at the end, I mean, it has to be visually perfect as well, obviously, but in terms of the sound, especially on a film like Top Gun, we spent about twice as long as the average movie to mix the sound, because he said every second has to be perfect. I'm not compromising at all. And we're going to keep going until it's done, until it's perfect. And literally every single line of dialogue and every note of music and every sound of a jet is exactly what the filmmakers wanted. You know, we didn't rush at all. We just took the time it took to really make sure that every moment in the movie landed emotionally and was, you know, even in the dialogue scenes, even the scene with Mav and Ice, or when Mav and Penny are in bed, or whatever it is, like all those, every syllable of every line of dialogue has been crafted to perfection by like the world-class sound mixers and the digital technology that we have. And, you know, if you sit in an IMAX theater or in a Dolby cinema and hear Dolby Atmos sound, you can really tell that there's so much love poured into it, you know, because we want to give that to the audience, especially after the pandemic. I mean, you know,
I was so hungry for it, and it just came out at just the right time. There's going to be a lot of attention, I think, on the film's technical prowess, and of course the way that you edited those sequences, particularly in the last half an hour of the film. Like, it's breathtaking. But I would actually prefer to talk about something else, Eddie, because I had the chance to also talk about this with Joseph, and I just think that scene where Mav sighs, I don't know how, with tears in his eyes, choking them back as Iceman puts on the screen, it's time to let go. That stillness and profound connection really, really got me viscerally. And after all the stuff going around, this was a moment where we could just sit and watch these two amazing actors. And I love the way you edited it. There's some moments where you don't have to do much, you just keep it very still on the frame. But there's other moments I noticed with your editing, which is very intentional. Can you talk me through what you were trying to achieve? Because the emotional undercurrent is also extremely important for editors that people probably don't realize.
It's everything. It's all we care about. Is about it's it's taking you on it's holding your hand as the audience and taking you on an emotional experience subjectively with our protagonist in the film, and understanding the power of every cut in a scene to change the emotional journey that the audience is on with different visual information. And one of the things that we do editing these movies is we almost always edit totally silent. We don't necessarily even listen to the dialogue. We will cut the film. We know what the dialogue is because we've seen the dailies and stuff, but what we'll do is we'll actually just cut the sequence totally silent and feel the emotion from the performance of the actor without hearing the intonation of the dialogue. And actually, if you watch, I would argue that if you watch any scene from Top Gun Maverick with the sound off, you will still get a very similar emotional experience as you would have with the sound on, because we start at that simplest, most basic level of just the emotion, the emotional content of each angle in a sequence. And the other thing that is critically important is point of view in a scene. And because we're subjectively with Maverick, when he arrives at Iceman's house, everything is played from his point of view. So you'll see Maverick react to something, and then you'll see what he's reacting to, whether it's Iceman's wife saying it's come back or whatever. And then you see Maverick walk in the door and you see his reaction. Then you cut to Iceman and coughing, and then he sits down and says, "How's my wingman?" And then when Ice starts typing, we always cut to Maverick first, looking at the screen. So you're subjectively with the character and you're with his thoughts. That's the main thing, is that you're feeling everything that he's feeling, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's the holy grail of visual storytelling, is when you are so connected to a character that you are physically, emotionally experiencing what they're going through, which is what I think you were talking about. And if you can engage people in that for an entire movie, that is the secret to a great experience watching a film, I think. And the understanding the power of when you cut to Ice, and the stillness of his performance and the humor of his performance as well, like when he points at the screen and says, I want to talk about work, but also the fact that you feel there's decades of friendship between these people, between these two men, and that Maverick really doesn't, he's quite alone in the film, to be honest. You see him in his hangar at the beginning and there's nobody there. He has Hondo and he has his family at work, and he has, obviously Penny throughout the film, but really when he's with Iceman, it's just this raw moment where you really get to see. And the other thing about these films is we all know that Tom is talking about himself, in a lot of these scenes, maybe so, sir, but not today, to Admiral Kane at the beginning of the movie. And when he's talking to Iceman saying, you have to let go, Tom is talking about, the film is kind of reflecting Tom's career as a movie star and an action star. And the fact that he is literally, the only actor doing what he does, and all that emotion is present when you're watching the film, whether you're kind of aware of it or not. And certainly Chris McQuarrie writes it with that in mind. He understands that Tom is a very unique actor, and the scripts kind of lean into that emotionally. I hope I'm answering your question. I don't know if I am, but those are the kind of things we're thinking about, when we're editing these scenes.
They're beautiful. Eddie, I don't want to jinx it. I've got my fingers and toes crossed, but I can't wait to see you at the Oscars, because you absolutely deserve it. Thank you so much for your time today. What an amazing film.
thank you for your time. It's so great to talk to you, Rob. Thanks very much.